Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Variety Gaming Podcast. Today's featured game is Deadlock, and later we'll introduce a new segment called RNG-arbage. It's a reoccurring segment we want to start where we take a moment and throw shade on RNGesus and how he just doesn't bless us in the games that we play. If you have played any sort of looter shooter or you've opened any loot boxes, you feel our pain. So stay tuned for that. Joined, as always, my lovable gaming companion, Atrax. Tell us what we got into today.
Oh man, this game was kept top secret for a really long time, and now all of a sudden, here it is. It's Deadlock, developed and published by Valve. Deadlock is a multiplayer game in early development. That's the Steam description, not very exciting, but the game is, like I said, it's an early development build. Lots of temporary art, experimental gameplay, limited access as well. But even though it says limited access, it seems like they are opening it up to kind of like anybody who gets invited. So this is a Steam game, only on Steam, at least currently. And the way to get invited is you have to have a friend who has access to Deadlock or know somebody. So shout out to, oh man, who gave it to me? Somebody in the CSC hooked me up and invited me. So shout out to whoever that was. I already forget. But then in turn, because I got access to it, sent out a bunch of invites to a ton of different people. And they're pretty, at least on one day that I was sending out invites, people were getting them within a couple of hours. Now there is a disclaimer on the bottom of the invite button where it says expect it to take 1 to 2 days. But either way, if you are somebody who is inviting people, they are accepting people to just play. It's not like a super closed access or alpha access or anything. It's kind of one of those, you got to know somebody who has it, and then they invite you, and then you can play. But that being said, it's pretty easy to go into a Discord server or something and just ask people, yo, can you friend me on Steam? Can you hook it up? There are some people trying to sell, like, yo, you can, add me as a friend on Steam and hook it up with some Counter-Strike skins or something. That's not cool, and also against their terms of service, so don't do that. But again, you just get invited in order to play this game, and it is a MOBA. So third-person MOBA, kind of like Smite, but with guns and other stuff. And like I said, I got invited from somebody in CSC. I sent out a ton of invites, and Rayu, of course, was one of them, being my fellow co-host here on the Variety Gaming Podcast. And Rayu, what's been your experience like? Because I think, at least comparatively, you've played like, how many MOBAs have you played? We've probably played the same amount, actually, now that I think about it. I played a lot of League in high school, though.
So I've played League of Legends. Currently it's under the name Predecessor, but it used to be called Paragon.
Yeah.
Dota. You and I actually played Dota too for a little bit together. And Smite. I was really big into Smite for the longest time. I played that in the alpha stages, so it's kind of funny playing Deadlock in alpha. I played Smite in alpha. It's like, let's see where these games kind of go, sort of thing. And now we got Smite too. So I've played a handful of MOBAs.
All right, so I would say we're same experience level when it comes to MOBAs then, because I've played pretty much the same ones too. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Deadlock so far? Because it is, like we said, it's early alpha, so now is the time to get kind of the feedback out and see what Valve wants to do with it. I'm excited for it, but what you got, Rayu?
Both of us had different experiences. We've only played 2 matches together, and you got a glimpse of what my experience was in the very first match, which if you're watching the YouTube version of the show, you're probably seeing what my experience has been in Deadlock since jumping in. But it is fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the gameplay is a lot of fun. I do like the terrain. I do like the characters. I like the environment. It's really, really cool. It has a lot of, I could feel that it's a Valve game, in honesty, because like the angles, I was noticing like some people like they'll like crouch down behind one of like the pillars or like a box of something, and it's just they have like this right angle where they could just like tap fire you just to kind of push you off the lane a little bit. So that's where I get like some of the more Valve-esque feel to, coming from like Counter-Strike and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, it is really cool. It does have similar feels to Smite and Predecessor, that being a third person sort of thing, and then also the terrain. There's the high ground, the low ground, all these different kind of fast travel ways like Predecessor has, where like as you're leaving the station, you get shot out, so you can kind of go a little bit further than having to walk all the way out like Smite has it or any traditional MOBA. This one with the whole zipline thing, I like it. It's unique. I don't like getting pop shot while I'm on the zip line, trying to either get back or get back to the fight or go back to base sort of thing. I can understand, but I feel like there are some characters that may have the range advantage where others don't. So outside of that, it's unique. That's the thing, is and I'll probably be saying that a little bit more in the show, is that it's just unique. The minions going up as far as the lane is pushed instead of walking all the way back to the lane. So it creates this more fast-paced, kind of stressful situation because your lane is being pushed so far, so that you like, oh, we got to push it back a little bit more so our minions can get up there. That's really cool. I do like it. Speaking of minions, there's no super minions, at least right now in the current game. There's no... So like with Smite and Predecessor, after you destroy like one of the... Like for Smite, it's called the Phoenix. So like you have the towers, and then you get to like the one that's right before the boss. Well, then you get super minions. So like they'll be like a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. This game doesn't really have any of that, at least not that I've noticed. I know when we were playing, and our second game that unfortunately we didn't record any footage for, that we were actually doing pretty well in, when we would push those, the minions were all the same. Still the same speed, same strength, same damage. So that's something that's a little different, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, because then it's like you don't have to really worry so much about having to re-push that lane as hard. Because now if you can get it like back to that midway point in the beginning, then you have like a little bit more of a fighting chance, even though you've lost everything else. The next thing I had was buying items. That is different. It's very different. The items are different for me because there's no images. There's no kind of, oh, you want to go into attack speed, this is kind of the color item you go. Now, yes, they have like if you're going to go attack speed, you go straight orange. Or if you're going to go ability, you're going to go straight purple, or straight health is green. But it's like, I feel like they're all the same items. Maybe that's just because I'm looking at the recommended builds, and maybe there's more to the shop than there is, but at least when you're in the recommended builds and you see it, it's just like, there's a little bit more to a reading type thing. I know that, and maybe that's just from my experience playing Smite so much as I did. Like, eventually you stop looking for names of items and you're like, okay, where's the icon? Like, this is what it looks like, and you take that. And typically with updates to items and patches to that sort of thing, they'll change the image and the description. So it's like, okay, so that's what you're looking for. So maybe that's a quality of life thing. I don't know, but I feel like it's a little bit more, I need to read exactly what these cards do. And especially in MOBAs, time is everything. The more time I'm spending back at the shop reading what these items do before I spend the resources to buy them, now my lane is being pushed back, or now my teammate's been ganked, and all of these types of things. So that's something that's a little bit different. And there's no auto buy. There's no auto buy in the game. Again, coming from those two MOBAs that I've played a lot of, auto buy was in the game. It was in the game in the beta stages. It was in the game when it launched. For me, auto buy is something that I just kind of, a time thing. Like, I can come back to base, I know my item is bought, and I'm out the gate. I don't have to open the menu and do all that sort of thing. Especially now with the recommended builds being kind of more what we've been using. I feel like if auto buy is turned on for the recommended items, then it kind of gives the player an understanding about this is why you build that way, as opposed to I'm going to randomly click buttons and see what happens.
I have to jump in and say that I disagree. I think auto buy teaches people to just not look at the items that they're buying and just, oh, this is what I need for the build. And they don't know because it just, oh yeah, it just auto buys whatever the current build is. I'll just swap I don't think it actually teaches you, oh, I need to buy this item in this scenario. That's my take on it. I think everyone should read the items and get familiar with them. And if you're buying the wrong items, then someone's going to tell you, or you'll figure it out because you're not doing any damage. And you'll be like, well, why am I not doing damage? And then you do the research. You're like, oh, that's why I'm not doing damage. And then you lose as improve. I don't think auto buy helps anybody. I think they should keep it out of the game. Don't you hear that, Valve? You're 1-1 here, and hopefully you side with me. Don't put auto buy in the game. Upset Ryu and all the other people who use it as a crutch.
I mean,
it's just auto buys. It's so much easier.
No, I don't say it's a crutch. The reason I say it's not a crutch is because with MOBAs, every situation and every scenario is very unique. And I say that because, and a lot of my experience is going to come from Smite. So I apologize for those that are like, oh, he's saying Smite a lot. That's just, again, I played it for so long. There are certain builds for characters that are deemed tanks that are like, oh, I can build it into this really high damage character, and then it throws everyone off. Well, I don't know that you would necessarily be able to go and do something like that with the characters currently in Deadlock. And the reason being is because, again, going back to the items, they're just description, they're just names right now. There's no icons, there's nothing to indicate this is that item. So it's like if you want attack speed, well, some of the orange ones do attack speed, others do attribute. Like the game that we played for our second match, and I forget the name of the character I was playing, the one with the turrets. She had
McGinnis, I think.
Yeah, McGinnis. She had one of her orange ones after I had finished building out her purple for her ability tree. I was like, well, let me go into attack damage since I have the extra money. And that's another thing too. You're limited to 4 items per color. And then you have 2 flex slots. So it's like you could build everything. It's not like a unique, oh, I'm going to build straight purple or I'm going to build straight tank. No, you could build everything. So then it's like you have to build a certain, and again, it might be just the recommended builds, but
yeah, I was going to say, like you said, because in each category they have different like things that add to different attributes, right? So you kind of have to coordinate between the different colors and the different item descriptions, to formulate them all together, which that just takes time, like learning that's the only thing I can say.
No,
we just have to play more. Because
you're absolutely right.
I personally like how those items fit together, where it's like, okay, you have to buy 4 green, 4 orange, and 4, is it purple? I think it's purple. Okay, but in those 3 categories, you can kind of pick and choose. Like, it's not just purple is all of the ability power items and green is all of the health/tank items. It's like they're kind of spread evenly between the 3 subgroups, but that also makes new players more overwhelmed because they're like, well, I thought I was doing ability power and I'm buying all purple items, but now these are doing like health or something. I don't know the actual items, but I can see where it's cool but also confusing at the same time.
Oh yeah. And that was the thing, is that it's, as a new player, because I'm always going to look at this from like a new player standpoint, because that's how you get people into it. Like, yes, you could build a top quality game. Yes, it can look good. But if you're a new player whose buddy gift or just like, hey, I want you to try this MOBA with me, and they have no idea what they're doing, I'll be honest, the tutorial doesn't do necessarily that good of a job at explaining everything. It does explain a few things, but it doesn't go too far into detail with it. Then it's overwhelming. And then especially getting thrown into a match with, currently there's no I don't want to say skill-based matchmaking or MMR ratings or anything. There's no kind of filter between the people who clearly play this game a lot and the people who are just starting out, because there are some games where you're just like, there's nothing I can do. Like, it doesn't matter what I build. They know where to go. They know how to do these things. And again, that's probably just because it's in the alpha stages, which is fine. As a new player, hopefully Valve keeps in mind that when new people come in, they don't want to get steamrolled out the gate. So that's
Play bots, bud. That's all I can say. Get good with bots first, I guess. I mean, that happens in every MOBA, though, like, because there will always be people who are, like, smurfing and stuff like that, especially on full launch. I think early alpha, it's hard to expect them to do too much matchmaking, but I would agree with you that it is not fun, and it seems to happen, especially as a new player, more often than not, that you get put against someone who just steamrolls your whole team because your entire team has no clue what's going on.
And then, that's the other thing too. There's no way to see like what your teammates are doing, like what their picks are. That's something that I do and I don't like about it, because matchmaking is quick. It's very, very quick. I don't think we sat in queue for more than 5 seconds to get into a match right now, which has been great. But it's like, if your team is all damage characters, because that's just, it makes you select your characters that you want to play, your first one being your top priority, and then down the line, I don't know if that's because the matchmaking is like, okay, you need to play support in this game, and you selected this one support character, so you have to play that character. Or if you only select all damage characters, well, then you just have to play damage. But one thing I have noticed is that if you are grouping with people, it will put you in duo lanes together. Every match that I've played, when I played the 2 matches I did with Feta, and when I played the 2 matches with you, we were always put in a duo lane, whether blue or orange, because I don't know if it's because we were in a party, but I feel like it is, which has been really, really cool, and I appreciate that. You mentioned something earlier about communication, about someone will tell you if something's wrong. That is the one thing I will say this game is lacking so far in my 4 games. There is no communication between the lanes. I don't know if it's people don't know they can use voice comms in this game. I don't know if they don't know about a ping system, or if there's like, Smite has hotkeys that you can, like, enemy missing here, watch out over there, that sort of thing. And I think League of Legends has it as well.
Yep.
So, like, that's something that I was noticing, like, when we were playing and we were sitting here and we're, like, trying to maintain our lane and everything in the early stages, and then we would get ganked from one side, and there was no really kind of call out that, hey, they came from orange lane, or hey, they came from purple lane, like, so you can kind of be prepared. And there's no warding. There's no warding yet. That too.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay without wards.
I wonder if they will actually put wards in the game.
I find wards. I hope not. I hope they don't put wards.
I feel like warding is so important in MOBAs.
It's important because they say it's important. I don't like. I mean, like, some of them it makes sense, I guess, but like in this one, I don't think they need to put wards. I think you can see plenty on the map without wards.
Now, one thing I will say, if there is an enemy that comes into your, like, screen that's not in one of those shaded areas, it does pull up an arrow that says there's somebody over here.
Well, and also the view distance in Deadlock is a lot farther than other MOBAs, at least in terms of like the top-down ones. Maybe Smite, not so much, but like you mentioned the sniper characters and stuff.
Yeah.
With all of my characters that I've played, I've been able to see and register characters like as far as my FOV is. So if I'm aiming down a lane and I can see straight down the lane, then any characters that run through that, I can see them. It's not like there's an invisible fog, at least in my experience. Maybe there is. Maybe there is a radius for Fog of War, but I haven't noticed one, at least when it comes to your FOV. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think you really need wards, because the map is pretty busy. Like, you got 4 lanes.
The 4 lanes concept is really, really interesting. And the fact that duo lane is dead center.
2 duo lanes.
Two
too.
duo lanes dead center. That has been something that changed my perspective of this game a lot.
I have yet to see a jungle play either.
I don't think that you can.
Well, there are like neutral monsters that you can go farm, but they're right at the battle line. So I feel like maybe Valve is trying to step away from having a jungle role and just having 1-2-2-1, or you could even do like 2-1-2-1 or 2-1-1-2. Like I can see how with 4 lanes you could swap that type of stuff around a lot more depending on your strategy, but the 4 lanes has been really interesting. Like I think the map is laid out pretty well, and you don't need wards because it's so crammed.
I'm just gonna go back to the ward thing.
Yeah, to loop it back, Valve. You hear me? You don't need wards.
The one thing too that I just like as we're having this conversation, they have these little like golden pots or something that are hidden, and you can shoot them and you get like extra like resources or something. I have not seen outside of like the central mid boss that there are any kind of buff camps.
That too.
So like Predecessor and Smite, League of Legends, they all have like a mana camp, an attack damage camp, an attack speed camp, like all these things, and there's no indicators on the map of the camps except for just the mid boss and was it the soul urn that you have to return back and you get like an increase in resource. But that's it. Like so on the mini map typically there's like, oh, red is for attack, purple, blue, all this other kind of like buff camps. They're not in here. At least not that I have seen. If they are in there, because we've been playing a lot of duo and not really done any solo jungling or actually really going into any jungle whatsoever, because it really feels like this is like stay in your lane and push and then gank.
Well, but I haven't seen anyone with buffs either.
Outside of like the mid boss buff, I don't know of any other camp.
Like I haven't seen anyone running around with like a red or a blue aura or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the standard. But I haven't seen anyone like group up towards blah blah blah, except like you said for the mid boss. And to be honest, I think I would be okay with that if what they're trying to do, and I personally hope this is what they do, because I don't see a MOBA out there that really does this, is having a standard game mode that has multiple maps. Because like think about it, Smite, Predecessor, League, Dota, it's all the exact same map. It's the same layout, more or less, that you're playing on over and over again. You can play like all random, all mid. Pretty much all of them have some sort of game mode like that. And then maybe one other. There's like 3 maps, but they're all different quote unquote game modes, right?
Right.
I have yet to see a MOBA that has the standard game mode with multiple different maps. And if they're trying this 4-lane thing, then they can definitely branch out the amount of different maps and like layouts that they can do. Could you imagine having a map where like the 2 middle lanes cross each other, like one goes above, one goes underneath, or something like that? Because now that minions are on the rails and they go through, you could have them like cross on top of each other and be divided in the middle. So you could like run back and help. I don't know. That's just kind of a random thought. But if that's what they're trying to do, I think it would be cool to see a MOBA that has more than one map for their standard game mode.
I agree. That would be interesting. Yeah,
and
you're right.
If you don't have buffs and stuff like that, then it's a lot easier to make a different map because you just focus solely on the lanes and the minions and how all of those interact with each other in crossplay. You know what I mean? Like you could just make whatever layout you wanted as long as the minions are staying on the rail for the lane. You can do some whack layouts.
Yeah, that would be cool. That really would be. So outside of map design, one thing too I noticed, if you play this game wearing headphones, turn it down. or leave your headphones off at the beginning of it. Lord, this game is loud. It is loud out the gate. I've had to adjust the audio, and that's the thing. I will forget that it's so loud. I'll put my headphones on, and then I get a nice little ear blast. It's great. So it's cool. I do like the soundtrack that plays while you're sitting in the menu. I like the soundtrack when you're loading in. The voice lines are really cool for the characters and everything. The audio is great. The guns all sound unique to each other. It doesn't sound like really a copy and paste sort of thing. I've played, like, even using McGinnis, as well as, I forget the other lightning samurai looking guy. But both the lightning guy uses a rifle. McGinnis uses a machine gun. They don't sound the same in any way. Their abilities don't sound the same, which is really nice to see that Valve is putting in the time to make sure that each character sounds, feels, and plays unique to the other characters. So you do get a different experience with each character you choose.
I would definitely agree. I think the character design is some of the best. Now the pool is limited, right? There's only like, I think 15, 20 maybe heroes available currently. Obviously it's the alpha, but I'm just saying the hero pool is relatively limited, but the quality is really good. I really like playing Bebop, who has a hook, pulls people in, enemies or friends. But recently, I found a support character that I really, really like called Ivy, who has a tether to ally, and I believe it buffs their damage. Then also has a gargoyle-like stun. And then the other one is it vines? I think it's vines. Yeah, it's vines, not a gas cloud. It's vines that like entangle people and slow them down. And then the ultimate is just you swoop up your friend and fly around with them. And can you control when you're in Ivy's ult? Can you control when you dispatch as the person being grabbed? Like when I grabbed you and was flying out up in the air,
I could still fire and everything, but I couldn't like
decide when you
I honestly thought, because I didn't know that it was you, I thought an enemy was picking me up, so I was sitting here like, what is happening? Only until I think like halfway to our third or fourth push that I was almost dead that you picked me up that I realized, oh, that's Atrax. He's just getting me out of the fight because I'm near. Oh, okay.
Support players for the win. Okay. So Ivy like jumps up in the air and grabs an ally, and then I can choose when to like fight, when and where to throw them. And I think it does damage when I throw you too. And then I can keep like flying around, and yeah, it's good times.
No, we found an interesting little duo with you running Ivy and me as McGinnis. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw in the game that if you're watching the YouTube version of this and you see it, we ended up fighting a McGinnis, and that's where I was like, who's using the turret? Where's this wall coming from? Why am I dead again? I played McGinnis the very next game, and I was like, yep, this is going to be the character that I just tunnel into because, dude, you place those turrets, and it's just like, if you ever played original Overwatch with Torbjorn's turret, how you could like position it, and it would like hold this really hard angle that people got mad at you about. That's what it feels like. Like you place a turret at this one angle, and it's like, pew, 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 and it hit whatever comes into range. I don't know that it has a range limiter, because there were some that I was just throwing down and it was hitting things on the grappling rail. It was hitting people coming back down from the lane, and you could build that thing to where you have like 4 turrets going at once.
Yep.
Like it's chaos. And then the wall, you just choke it right off. Oh, nope, you're stuck here. You're going to play with us.
Yeah. And your team isn't going to help you because we walled them off.
Yeah.
We put the wall between. And then, surprise, here comes Gargoyle Ivy stamping in, and now you're stunned.
And it's like, oh, your team's here. That's fine. Guess what? McGinnis has this little heal drone.
Yeah, right? Ivy's tethered. You got the heal drone. Oh, we're getting low? Well, we'll just fly away.
And then McGinnis is what is it? Her spectral cannon, or it's like an
Oh no,
air. It's
she
like
just starts
a,
yelling. Ah!
it's like an air support raid. You're just sitting here firing cannons, and you just watch their health just dead, dead. I was like, this is like the most unbalanced I've ever seen a character. Like, I could literally hit 4 and it goes forever. Like, there are times where I was canceling it short because I'm like, there's nobody here. Let me just start the cooldown timer. It would sit there and just go and go. And I was like, oh, wow. That is a long ult.
Probably gonna get nerfed.
Oh,
Probably
please don't
gonna
say
get
that.
nerfed.
Valve, ignore everything that we just said.
Well, I mean, look, if it's Valve's, if we go based off of Valve's history, I shouldn't say she'll get nerfed. Everybody else is gonna get buffed.
Well, that's fine. I'll take that.
That's how Dota is. It's not. It's like, oh, something's OP. All right, let's make everything else better then to match it. There's just like insane power creep.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have more power creep than getting nerfs left and right, because I feel like, especially when you find a character that you like what they do, if that character gets nerfed to the point that they're just not a viable pick, especially in MOBAs, there's going to be a lot of meta builds, a lot of meta characters, all of that stuff, especially if they introduce like a ranked system, then that's something that I hope they do is more power creep as opposed to nerfing things. Just so that way people could stay competitive with it.
Well, and I understand there has to be a balance of you do nerf some things sometimes overall, but generally speaking, yeah, buff other stuff instead of nerf. I don't know. I'm not a game developer. I just know as a player, I don't like when my stuff gets nerfed, and it's fun when stuff gets buffed.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We all hate nerfs.
For an early alpha, this is probably one of the most polished I've ever played. Like, it's actually so good. I would argue. I think everybody's already clamoring like, "Oh, release this within the next year." Valve is going to say, "Nah, and I mean, we're noobs. I'm sure as we play more, then we'll realize and see the bigger flaws with it. But overall, I'm incredibly impressed already, and I can see Deadlock, especially with Valve taking their time to get it right. I could see Deadlock being a super popular esport. And if it does get there, I hope they do like the compendium, the Dota 2 TI compendium style for Deadlock, which is like a viewer pass plus you get in-game items and stuff like that. If you try really hard, you can claim your 1/5 replica of the statue. That's how it is for the Dota compendium, and all those proceeds go to, or at least a large majority of them go to funding the tournament prize pool. So the tournament prize pool is usually pretty large too. I hope they do that for Deadlock and they don't go like the Counter-Strike route. That's just me personally. I know there's downsides to the Dota 2 scene too. I'm not denying that, but I just think it would be cool because, you know, I like that battle pass style, and they're going to have to monetize the game somehow because I'm sure it's going to be free to play.
You think it will be free to play?
You think they're going to charge for it?
I don't know. Honestly, I've been surprised at a lot of things. Currently, right now, Smite 2 being in its quote-unquote early access, and all you're doing is paying to play the game a little bit earlier. Granted, it's slated for like a 2025 release, but it will be free to play on release. And then I wonder if there's any additional compensation for people who do purchase things in advance. That's a
skins and
sidebar
stuff
for another thing with it, but I have no idea. Obviously, developers need to make money, but Valve is a studio, I feel that with Counter-Strike and with that whole system, that they don't really need to necessarily make money off of the game. And if they do introduce microtransactions, like, you know, again, all MOBAs have it, skins for characters. Are they going to do limited time skins? That was something that was big in Smite, where they do it for, I think it's about every year. It's called the Odyssey event. And there is one skin that is an evolving skin for that one particular character. and you can only get it during the Odyssey event. You can't get it any other time. It's a big FOMO tactic from Hi-Rez. So is that something that Valve will introduce into it? Is it going to be something like they do with Counter-Strike with the loot boxes, which we'll get into that in the next segment, but Overwatch did it, Counter-Strike did it, Rocket League did it. Like, so many different places have introduced loot boxes to the game. So is that going to be something that they do? It's like, oh, you played so many matches, now you get a loot box. Or you have so many coins, now you can buy a loot box type thing. Because I know it's an alpha. There's no real progression system put into the game right now. So character mastery, account mastery, shops, all that kind of sort of thing. There's not in the game right now. So I'm curious if that's something that they're looking at. Like, we need to reward the players for playing the game consistently and how they're going to do it.
I personally hope they adopt the Dota 2 style of pay and microtransactions and stuff. The way it is, for those who don't know now, as you play, you get XP, your account level goes up. As your account level goes up, you get like marketplace items, which are random skins and stuff like that. They're not very good, obviously, because you're just leveling up, but you get them. You can trade and sell some of them on the market. In addition to that, they have like the normal loot boxes where you can unlock for random stuff. But they also have Dota Plus, which gives you advanced analytics on your gameplay, your tendencies, like how you do and stuff like that. And it's relative, I think it's $3 a month, maybe $4 a month. Relatively cheap. But in addition to that, you get like premium esports viewing too. So it's kind of, it just enhances your free to play game already. I like it. I wish more games would copy the Dota 2 pay style. Like, I wish League had it. I more or less wish Counter-Strike had it. I think they kind of do. But I guess they do, because you can level up and get crates and stuff. Anyway, I really like the Dota 2 way of paying for stuff.
That sounds like a good system to have with it. How you can pay for something like the analytics to it and everything.
Yeah.
That is something I know, and again, feel free to correct us if we're wrong in the comment section, because it's been so long since I've played a physical MOBA outside of Predecessor and Smite, so what I know from them may entirely be different or outdated. Smite has it to where in-game you can see your analytics from your match, like what particular lane you play, what god you play the most of, and you can go back and see your performances and all those things. Predecessor does not have it currently in game. You have to go to another site to pull up that information to see. And it's interesting too, because like you could see like your win-loss ratio and your MMR on the third-party Predecessor site, whereas opposed to Smite, you don't really get MMR until you get into ranked matches. So that's something, and you can look at win-losses and tendencies and all that kind of thing. With the Dota 2, I don't know if you know Atrax or not, does it like give you any sort of recommendations, like do this, do that, buy this, buy that?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
You get access to like recommended builds, what you could do wrong. There's also a graph where you can compare your, like, let's say your gold accumulation or XP accumulation. You can compare that to the average of the different ranks. So you can compare yourself to the top rank or the rank that's just slightly above you. So you can see where you can improve. You know, like, oh man, my early game is really good and I'm on par, but I drop off late game. Or my early game sucks, but then late game I bring it back and I'm on par with whatever, right? So you can kind of see how you do and you can compare yourself to that. So the stats are a little bit more in depth when you get Dota Plus. You know, they give you recommendations and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, I like stuff like that. But like you said, you have to pay for that. So whenever you introduce something like that into a game, I feel like that has to be a game that you as a player are like, this is the game that I'm going to play. Like, this is what I want to improve on. This is what I want to get better at. Buddies of mine for years were always playing League of Legends, always trying to get better at League of Legends, playing ranked matches, doing all this kind of stuff, watching videos, tutorials, esports. Like, they were committed to League. I couldn't go in that far on that type of a game. One, I'm not a top-down MOBA type person, but it just wasn't for me. I could do it with Smite. I would gladly purchase something like that for Smite at the time where I was playing it regularly. Depending on how Deadlock 2 continues its development cycle, and depending on their monetization method moving into the future, I would gladly revisit this as a MOBA to add to my repertoire of, predecessor Smite, Deadlock, just as a rotating basis. I don't know if I'll go too in depth with ranked, just because the MOBA community is extremely toxic. At least in the ones
but you got voice chat, right? You don't want to go back to the old Call of Duty lobby days.
Oh, I'm perfectly fine with it. My thing is that whenever I bring out the old Call of Duty lobbies and people get upset,
You get banned.
and I get banned. Like, that's the thing. The world would not survive old Call of Duty lobbies that you and I grew up on. Like, it just doesn't exist anymore.
I miss those days when the microphones were awful. People were just screaming into it at full volume.
Yeah, that one kid that's just high-pitched screaming just so that way he can overshadow everyone and make himself feel good.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then you hear his parents bust in the room and hear him, shut up.
Oh, now, side note, this is a heavy sidebar off of our topic of conversation with Black Ops 6 coming out and the whole human body shield. Those have mics, and there have been some things said and done, but I'm like, those are the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm gonna take what you said about Call of Duty, sidebar it, and then wrap it right back into our conversation. Check this out. Watch, ready?
Okay.
So the Black Ops 6 beta, I was like, oh, open beta, I'll give it a go. Tried to download it. I needed to download 133 gigabytes of Call of Duty data in order to play the Black Ops 6 beta. I was incredibly upset, and I said, no way. So not even for free am I going to play Call of Duty. Oh, you have to download Modern Warfare in order to get the beta. You can suck it, all right? 133 gigs, no shot. Deadlock, on the other hand, only 22 and a half gigs for their alpha. So that's how you do it. All right. You got plenty of space. Download Deadlock. Get someone to invite you to Deadlock because it's fun.
Or message us. Message us at Variety Gaming's
beta.
podcast and let us know.
There you go.
We'll be more than happy to send out an invite and bring you into the fun of Deadlock.
Yeah. Play with us.
So now we're going to take a moment and we are going to bow our heads, clasp our hands together, and we're going to throw some shade at RNG-Jesus, because now we're going to segue into our new segment, RNG-arbage. Now, the idea behind this is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if there are games that you play that have a heavy element of RNG, that could be battle royales where you have to open boxes to get better weapons. That could be spawn points in Call of Duty. That could be loot boxes or weapon drops, amorphous drops, item drops in MMOs, looter shooters, whatever it is. And you have been blessed by RNG-Jesus. This is not the segment for you. This is where we're going to bash on the fact that we have spent hours and possibly thousands of dollars trying to get things and haven't gotten it because RNG-Jesus just gives us the finger.
Yeah. It's a rant. It's just a rant about us being upset that we're not getting the stuff that we want. And hopefully you will enjoy it and also relate, because everybody out there, like Ray, you mentioned, whether you're playing a looter shooter or a battle royale, or you've got, randomness and spawn points, things of that nature, sometimes you just get really, really screwed. And I'll be honest, I've been getting screwed lately trying to get the Fallen Hope blueprint. It is a 20% drop. I have done this mission 20 times, and I've only gotten it once. That's pretty ridiculous. Coincidentally, when we were recording the content for this episode, that was the one drop that I did get. So on the YouTube version should pop up, yay, he got the Fallen Hope blueprint. Yeah, that's the one after. But this mission takes like 5 minutes, okay? So 5 minutes, extrapolated out 20 times is 100 minutes. which is an hour and a half, just over an hour and a half of straight farming, and I only got one. I've only gotten one. I know Rayu already has his Fallen Hope blueprints. His RNG was good on that one. He was fine. But yeah, I only got one, and that's it. I'm just complaining because that's a lot. It's an hour and a half to get one, and I need 3 more still. So we'll be there for a while. I have all the other Fallen Hope pieces. I just need the one. It's a 20% drop rate, and I'm not getting it. I have a feeling that Rayu got all of my Fallen Hope blueprints.
I probably did. I'll be honest with you. I can't remember the last time I farmed for Fallen Hope. I got it and finished it and was done with it so long ago. Now, if we could circle back to episode 1 with your luck on the Python, or not the Python, the Thunder Cage, and how I was sitting there and just mindlessly running missions to get Thunder Cage blueprints, and you were getting them all.
I still have so many. I still have like 7.
Wow. There you go. But so the funny part, as we're sitting here, we're talking about just that in particular, the amount of duplicate mess that I have from running gun missions with people, running a Descendant character missions with people, all of this duplicate stuff, like stuff that I don't need. Like I have so many amorphouses in the First Descendant that I just don't plan on going after, that they're just going to sit there. It take up space.
Yeah. So, until was it ETAO?
ETAO. Whenever he comes out, then we'll be able to do something about it. But currently our good buddy Devitalized is trying to get the Ultimate Bunny code. That's all he needs, and he can make Ultimate Bunny. And it is a 6% drop. And he's done this solo, and he's done this with me probably 50 to 100 times now. At a 6% drop, you'd think he'd gotten it by now. I managed to pull the code twice. He hasn't pulled it at all. So, like, we're here to talk about RNG-arbage, but RNG-Jesus has been blessing me lately. Let me tell you.
Yeah. It must be so great.
No, there are times that I have been screwed out of it, where people are getting things before I am. And, don't even get me started. When we start trying to farm for, like, the Python, he was getting everything. You were getting everything. I'm like, God dang, I just need one piece.
I remember when you were farming Lepic, and I came in, and literally, like, the first amorphous material that I get was the Lepic blueprint. And I'm like, oh, hey, sweet, I got it. And then, like, 3 later, oh, look, I got it again. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, later, guys, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah. Finally got it. Finally got him done and made. But it's just... And the ultimate Descendants are going to be the hard ones, because it's like 6 to 20% chance drops for them. And it's just, Well,
don't you already have Ultimate Bunny going, though?
I do. I have Ultimate Bunny going. She'll be ready.
Okay, well, I'm going to play World's Tiniest Violin for you then. Yeah, so much sympathy. It's so difficult.
It is. It really is. It's hard to be perfect.
It's hard to just have great RNG.
Now, there are times I've had some really crappy RNG, like whenever I was playing Apex Legends for a little bit with buddies.
Okay.
I hate battle royales that rely on RNG. Like, I could open a crate and get just crap, and the buddy next to me opens a crate, and he gets everything he needs, and he's set for endgame, and it's just like, I'm sitting here struggling.
Yeah, with a P2020.
Yeah.
And some arc stars.
It's just like, come on, man. See, what is this?
For me, I always got some pretty good guns, but the RNG that would happen to me is getting third-partied, like, all the time. And I guess that's kind of not really RNG. To me, it felt that way. Of like, okay, so I downed this team. I killed the second team coming in. Now I'm reloading. Oh, surprise. Here's team number 3. Enjoy. You don't have any more things. And they just come in and clean up And I hate that so much. That's why I can't play battle royales. I only play Apex Legends in custom lobbies now with my friends. Shout out to all of you in the Ripsick Apex custom lobbies. Those are good times.
Oh my goodness. No, there is one battle royale. It's called Realm Royale, which actually I think it's now called Realm Reforged. This was a game made by Hi-Rez that like got sunset, but then a community member ended up working for them and brought this game back. So that's why it's called Reforged. That is not an RNG battle royale. That you go in and you have to craft. Now it is RNG when you open up crates or when you open up the chests and everything, but you can like scrap those weapons and things for the resources to then go forge new things that you need for like the end game. So that is the one battle royale I have no problem playing, and the RNG kind of doesn't do any good.
Exist.
Yeah, but that would be one game. But it's crazy that so many games rely on RNG now. We were talking before the show that we have, and I mentioned it too with the whole loot boxes and everything, that you could sit here and you could open crate after crate after crate after crate.
All right. Listen here, bud.
Yeah, I'm going to sit here because I'm looking at the notes now. You could open crate after crate.
Yeah.
And go and drop a whole wallet on this thing.
You can open crates for 5 years and spend over $1,200 on keys that cost $250. Trying
That's
a
lot of keys. That's a lot of keys.
That's a lot of keys. Trying to get knives and other cool weapon skins for Counter-Strike. And you know what? After about $1,100, you'll get one. All right? You just got to spend like $1,100 and then you'll get one that's worth like $850. And then you'll be set. That is what happened to me. Okay, so here's why I put it in the RNG-arbage section, okay? Because my buddy has opened up multiple knives, multiple sets of gloves, which for those who do not know about Counter-Strike cases, the rarity is like 0.1% chance that you will get this ultra rare item, either gloves or a knife. And depending on the case, there's different sets of gloves and knives and things like that. He's gotten multiple gloves, multiple knives, all of that cool stuff. I finally pulled a knife. And I am happy to say it is not complete garbage. It's actually really, really sick. It is a kukri slaughter. For those who don't know Counter-Strike, that's okay. I'll put a picture up on the screen on the YouTube version. And I found out, by the way, Spotify also has video now. So our video version is going to be available on Spotify from here on out, celebrating the big episode 10. So you can check out the video to see this kukri knife slaughter. It looks really good. It's factory new. But yeah, I lost my mind when that happened. It was my first knife ever, and it only took me $1,100 to get. And you may say, well, you got your knife. Why are you still spending more money on cases? That is a great question.
That's how they get
I don't know.
you.
I don't know the answer. So
That's how they get
because
you.
I want more. That's why I'm greedy and I want more. But either way, that RNG was it was bad and then it was okay for me.
I feel your pain. So Rocket League was that way for me. If you don't know Rocket League, I recommend taking a look at it. It's pretty fun. It's a great little fun time, but the customization just gets you so bad. Like there are certain exotic, like it's not even legendary, it's exotic. Ooh, makes it, they put a nice spin on it, they give it a nice little red background, they make it look all nice and pretty. You're like, I want that. I'm gonna get that thing. And so then what do? You open a crate. Maybe the next one. Maybe the next one. And you just keep going. And then you start looking for websites that you could just like well, what can I sell this stuff that I don't want? And there are people that you could trade it to. Like there's legitimate trading websites that you can go and like, I'll trade for this and that. And you try. Then it becomes like, I'm gonna do a trade up. I'm gonna start from a pencil and I'm gonna work my way up to a house, and I'm gonna trade my way. So it's crazy, but that's what it was for me.
Oh, they do that. They do that in Counter-Strike too. You can trade up 10 of a lower tier skin to get one of the next tier. The only thing is you can't trade in 10 reds, which are like the highest rarity outside of gloves, for like gloves, knives. So you can't trade up there. You have to pull gloves or knives, but you can trade up to red, which is technically like the second highest rarity. So you can trade up to there, but you don't get to pick what you trade up to. And usually it costs more to trade up than the skin that you get, unless you really like hit it big, but then that's gambling. So there's RNG-arbage there too. I've done some whack trade ups.
Lord have mercy. That's crazy to me. But
Good
that's
times.
what it is. It's RNG-arbage, man. It's just RNG-arbage.
RNG-arbage.
Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We truly do appreciate you guys and all the support. While we sat here today, we covered up Deadlock. Again, it is a game that is currently in the alpha stages of Steam. You do have to be invited to the game, so reach out to your friends. More than likely, if they haven't been invited to it, you can reach out to us at Variety Games Pod on X and let us know, that you want a code, preferably DMs, and we'll gladly send you one, just so that we can get so many people involved in this game, let Valve know what we think about it. And then for our segment here with RNG-arbage, where we just got to vent for a little bit about our unfortunate luck and also talk about some of the highs that we had in the games that we played. So thank you again. Find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. Please rate the show. Let us know what you think. Comment, tweet at us again. That's at Variety Games Pod. And tell us in the YouTube comments how we're doing. We'll see you guys in the next one.